On this episode of Asian Americans Amplified, the Science Leadership Academy students interview Mae Claire. Mae Claire is a Filipino American actress, singer, model, and filmmaker who recently launched her business, My Pocket Partner. Through the interview, we experience and explore the journey from high school to businesswoman, identifying ourselves as creatives, and all of the lessons in between. Enjoy! I'm so happy that you're here. We're gonna do this super fun and relaxed and just a conversation, May. I told the not kitties. I told these young adults about you, and they done their research on developing questions on the different aspects of your life, May. So, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. I know you messaged me and I was like, oh, what's this about? I was so confused.
I love that you're down for the ride. So it's very well appreciated.
Yeah, of course.
So, the whole point of this is to really practice our interviewing skills and being able to converse with or conversate with with individuals who are in their careers, who have graduated high school, gone through the cycle that is life, and a way to look at ourselves as we are developing and help make better choices. Because once upon a time, you were in high school, you had gone through confusions, and to see where you are now is pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely could not speak to anybody at all. So I completely understand. And that is such a great thing to go through.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so Kylie, Damien, Phoebe, this is May, and just want to give you a little intro. So May is a multi-hyphenate artist, human being, business owner. As you know, she is an actor. She has her own business called My Pocket Partner, where it helps individuals, entrepreneurs to have their own artistic path and social media presence. And not only that, but she also does cosplay. She's into anime, and she recently had an amazing film called The Best Way to Murder, and also played Catwoman. So all these fun things. May, can we talk about how you're doing, and with everything involved? What is the how did you what's the best way to ensure my apologies? When did your creativity begin to spark when you're younger?
I think for me, my creativity has always been kind of there. I just never really knew it was called creativity. It was more so like, oh, I'm gonna do this because I like it, or I'm gonna do this because I enjoy it, and you just kind of keep doing it, and it's like, wow, this is fun. Is this actually useful? No, but I'm gonna still do it, you know?
Was it Did you get started with acting, or was there another creativity that you were introduced at the beginning?
My very first love is singing. So I remember singing like since I was born. Like my mom always told me like when I was little, I didn't even know how to speak words, and she was singing this like Spanish song called like Marimar or something, and she's like Marimar, whatever, and I just like I kept going on, and I also cried a lot as baby, so my mom was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be a singer when she grows up, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
So
crying?
what was it?
Did you say that because you're crying a lot, your mom believed you were a singer?
I guess it was probably because I was just yelling on the top of my lungs a lot. Like I just had no restraints about that.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Um, can you identify yourself, like your ethnic background, where you're from, who are you, etc.?
Yeah, so I identify myself as a Filipino American. I was born in the Philippines and came to the US when I was about 6 years old. I've moved so many times in my life. Before I came to the US, I actually used to live in the Middle East. So, those were fun times. But one of the reasons why I do consider myself as Filipino American, I used to say just Filipino before, and now I'm like straight up Filipino American, was because like I guess growing up I've always learned about culture both in the American side and the Filipino side, and I've realized I've started taking on both. So now it feels weird for me to say Filipino because there are just certain things that I don't agree with or agree with. So there it is.
Was there a hard time of you accepting your heritage, whether Filipino or whether American?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to deal with specific cultural like values. So for example, like American is very highly integrated in like individualism as compared to Filipinos where it's just all collectivism, you know. It was always like about family or like what's better for them. And I've always kind of had a struggle having that balance between okay, I care about my family, but like I want to do my own thing. But like really in Filipino culture, it's like, well, you got to care about everyone else first before you start doing your own thing. And I'm like, I don't believe that. So
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. What were you like growing up through grade school and high school?
I was very, very shy. I did not talk to anyone. I was afraid to talk to anyone. Every time I talked to an adult, I got anxiety. Even when I was going through high school and college, I still got anxiety. Like my palms always sweated, so it was really bad. Uh, um, I remember I was me and my boyfriend were watching baby videos, and we saw this one video where my mom was like, "Oh, go sing, you know, like go sing for your family." I'm like, okay, cool, sure, I'll do it. And like literally, I was singing there, and I was just like, sometimes like literally so afraid to sing or just be in front of anyone. So straight up, like like I don't even know if people wanted to be friends with me.
That's a lie. That's a lie. You're such a bright energy, so I refuse to believe that. You mentioned the word anxiety. Personally, for myself, I never knew what it was or the word for the feeling. Can you go more in depth into what anxiety is, what it feels like, and your experience with this?
I think anxiety is kind of just feeling and thinking too much all at the same time. I started differentiating what was anxiety and what was not anxiety was when like I can just simply do it like I'm picking up a pencil or something like, oh, can you get that, like, yeah, okay, I'll go get it. But then when it's like, oh, can you go ask that cashier for a pack of ketchup, I'll be like, what what if I have to like do this, or what do I say? Do I have to like say excuse me? Do I have to cut in line? Like that would be terrible if I cut in line. Like just everything. It's just overblown.
I feel the same way. It's like the smallest thing is like, mm, okay. And have you felt it during high school when you're doing your studies or in classrooms, etc.?
Yes, 100%. I always had a problem with raising my hand and talking to the teacher. And it was very difficult to go through. But fortunately for us, when I started college, we had like business classes, which they kind of forced you to present in front of people, no matter what your like level is. Well, just because they say it's a very important thing to go through, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but that's not going to change the fact that I'm still anxious about it.
Wow. I do want to talk about your experience in college, but the whole topic of anxiety is really intriguing. I guess the last question I'll ask on this topic is how have you made anxiety a friend of yours, developing your relationship to the feeling?
Hmm. That one is a very difficult question because I think I am still in the process of learning about that. Um, I know that there are times that I do get anxious, and people have to tell me like it's okay, just take it a step at a time, and I'm like, okay, I guess I will. Um, but I think what has really helped me is to see that okay, this is anxiety, and there are like good things that come out of it. Because of my anxiety, I have the ability to see like every direction that a specific thing can go to, right? So it's like, okay, when I'm making my business, for example, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And therefore, I can create like plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D for all of the possible risks that can happen because I am such an anxious person. So I've come to terms with the fact that, like, okay, I have this. It is a strength, but is also a weakness as well. How can we utilize it to actually make it work for me? And literally all you do is just balance it off with someone who isn't as anxious, and it's like, okay, you tell me if I'm being too much, and we'll leave it at that.
Mm, that's like music to my ears. Like to find what we think as a weakness and turn it into a strength, you know, to have your business in such a way where you are leading creatives and entrepreneurs in different directions and helping them cultivate a social media presence is such a skill. The fact that you see both plan A, B, and C, you watch over every detail is such a beautiful strength. So thank you for being who you are. A few more questions, and then we can move forward with the students' questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned that you went to college. How was your transition from high school to college?
I would say that every single time I have transitioned to a new school, I always have this idea of, okay, when I go into college, I'm gonna be like a completely different person. I'm gonna be confident. I'm gonna make friends with everyone. And I just try to get into that mindset, but for some reason I just fall back into like whatever happened previously. But like it's not a bad thing. It always kind of just reveals who you are as a person. It's like, okay, I'm never gonna be that outgoing type of person. But I think every time I've like went from high school to college, it's like, okay, I have an opportunity to be someone better, not really someone else, just like it's kind of a fresh start. And I think there's an idea of like, nobody knows me. I can be who I am. I can be who I want to be because nobody knows me. And that's when I really allow myself to be flexible with what direction I go to.
That's beautiful. Mm, coming from a Filipino American heritage, was there pressure in deciding your college major? And how did you cope with that?
Yes. So, um, being a Filipino, I definitely struggled with, hey, are you gonna go into nursing? And I've just never been interested in it at all because it's what I see. My mom and my dad, my aunts, my uncles, like everyone does it, and it kind of felt like they were already laying out a path for me. Um, and I had to struggle with like other options too. Like, okay, maybe I could do something else in healthcare. Maybe I could be a psychologist. And they're like, well, psychologists don't make money. And I'm like, they don't? Okay, that sucks. And I went to pharmacy. I actually went into college in a pharmacy program. It was supposed to be a 6 year program. And I hated it. Like, I was so bad at chemistry. Like, I thought I was smart. And then I went to chemistry and I got like straight C's. And I'm like, wow, maybe I am not smart at all. And then there were people who barely studied for chemistry and like they passed with flying colors and they tutored me and then they were getting straight A's and I'm like, dude, this doesn't make sense. How is it possible that you could work so hard for something and still suck at it? And there're just people who are just naturally like that. And I think that I learned that, like, okay, there are certain things that I'm good at that I'm just naturally inclined to. And that's when I started realizing that I was good at other things. So struggling with pharmacy, I switched into like physical therapy. I like tried to get a minor in like exercise science, and then I went to pharmaceutical and healthcare business just because University of Science was just an all science school. So there wasn't really anything I could pick. I mean, I could go out of college, but I didn't want to spend more money on that. So I took the business side, and the business one was like what I really vibed with the most. So I was like, okay, well, I could do the business stuff, and then I could use the creative stuff, and then I could combine them together, and there we go. That's how we could do it. Um, so it is a very long process of self discovery through that.
Mm, that's awesome, especially with these students, discovering themselves, finding what they're interested in. I love what you're saying about self discovery. Sometimes the best versions of ourselves or the truest versions of ourselves come from challenges and obstacles.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really that thing where, you know how people say, like, oh, you can't teach a fish how to climb a tree or something? It's like, like you are you, and there is something that you are good at. It's just the fact that society and other people have told you these things. It's like, well, I should be good at this. But it's like, well, why aren't you good at this? I can never do math. I always ask my boyfriend to do math for me. They're like, oh, what's 200,000 plus this? And like, I don't know. That's why I hired you. Like,
do your job. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, awesome. So trying to study pharmaceutical and then going into business, you have your business going on. And it's wild because you have not yet mentioned about your emerging acting career. I do want to hear briefly about how does that go into play, and then Kylie will take over all the questions about acting. So Kylie, after May speaks, feel free to go off. I'll go ahead and mute myself. So May, how did you start in acting?
Yeah, so I started acting after, well, I was doing modeling for a bit in college because nobody would hire me. And I was like, okay, well, if no one's going to hire me, I'm just going to earn money myself somehow. And so I started doing modeling. I got tired of it after a while because there wasn't any sort of creativity involved. And then I got into an acting class. And when I was in that acting class for the first time, that was the first time that I've actually like been one on one with a human and have been vulnerable and emotional with them. So combining all of my experiences of being a Filipino America and like not really having any emotional support, plus going into singing and then realizing that, oh, you can't be a singer because you can't do this and all that stuff, I started losing my voice. Like I couldn't be as free as I wanted to be. But when I went into acting, I was like, that's when I just went all out. I'm like, oh my god, you can have these range of emotions as a human being and like tell it in a story. And I think that's really when I caught the bug of acting. And I just like, I never wanted to be an actor. I did not want to memorize stuff. But when I did, I was just like, I like, this is a part of my life now. Like this is like a part of my values. It's almost like a religion in a sense. Like I hold this as my own personal value, so I can't get rid of it.
Go ahead and take it away with the questions you prepared for her.
Okie dokie. Okay, so one of the questions I have is, what is it like being an Asian actress? As in, like, is it hard for you to like find opportunities due to you being a person of color, or does it give you more opportunities being a person of color?
I think it's both. Definitely, if I was to say maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, it would be very difficult to find opportunity. But because of the way culture is shifting right now and how the industry is changing, there is definitely more opportunities for people of color and Asians to get into acting. And I think that it is also a matter of you creating the opportunities for yourself. What I've been seeing like for the past year or so is that a lot of people have started getting really creative as Asian American artists. Like they've been creating their own stuff. They've been working with other people. They've been utilizing social media, using their voice to actually get themselves opportunities. So it is yes and no. Yes, because there's opportunity available, and no, because right now like there are people in higher power that don't understand where Asian Americans are coming from.
So when when looking for a role within a film, like what do you think they're looking for? And do you think it's difficult to like make sure you have secured a role in a film?
So with the first question, I think this is very interesting because I've just been learning this over the past few months. A lot of the bigger network stuff has been trying to find Asians that look more stereotypically Asian. And for me, I look a little bit more ambiguous. So it's actually a little bit more harder for me to secure a role just because they're like, oh, like there's this Asian character, but we don't even know she's Asian. She looks more like she's mixed. So it's like, how do we feel that kind of diversity thing? Um, and one of the thing that I've been working out with my manager, which is what he's strategizing, is that like, okay, you should target going to get films in like New Mexico and Toronto, Canada, because Toronto, Canada, there's tons of Asians there, and they're looking for shows, like Kim's Convenience, right? Like that's in Canada. Um, in Mexico, Albuquerque is one of the places that is best for filmmakers because it's so cheap. So that's why you have Stranger Things. So they're all like, it's all there. Um, and you could be more ambiguous because what they're looking for is like people who are willing to come there, but they don't have to pay them extra. So you got to be creative with it. And in terms of securing a role, I I think for me, I've just come to the point where I believe myself that a role isn't secure unless like you believe like that you are that person for that role. Um, if there's ever any sliver of me being like, dude, I can't get this, I'm just not that type of person, I just have not trained enough to be able to do it, then it's like you can't. But um, it's so difficult to tell that I think as an actor, at some point, you just have to accept the fact that it's like you just own it as your own, basically.
Um, what are some tips that you would give to someone looking forward to pursue a career in film and acting?
So one of my biggest tips that I've been learning, I like have different tips every single time depending on like what my progress is. It's the fact that for some reason, when it comes to the arts, when it comes to film, TV, drawing, painting, anything artistic related, everyone always gives that career an idea of like, oh, you make it or you make it or break it or whatever. Like there's always this thing where like you don't work at it. But going into film and TV, going into acting, going into like anything artistic is the same exact way that like you would as a doctor. Those doctors train for years on end and they keep learning. They learn about new things, they learn about business, they learn about like everything involved with it. And it's the same thing with acting. There is no such thing as like an overnight success. And even if there is, it's either one, because the person has connections and they're at the right place, the right time, the right location, or two, you know, people work so hard and they learn about the business, they learn about like acting, they learn about all of it over like a compilation of years until they finally figured it out. It's like, oh, this is like college without paying for college. So like literally it is a trajectory just like any other career for me.
Is there any like actors that you look up to that you
Oh, I think you cut out a little bit. Sorry, Kylie. I think your sound went out.
did you hear anything that I said?
I
No, we didn't.
no, sorry.
I'm fine. Okay, so I basically said like, is there any actors that you look up to? Anybody that you see for like inspiration for your career?
So right now I am super obsessed with Viola Davis. I don't know why. Whenever I watch her act, I'm just like, girl, you are golden. Like I just chef's kiss, you know. In terms of Asian American, I don't know what it is. I have an obsession with what's her name? Um God, I know her face. Astrid from Crazy Rich Asians. Gemma Chan. There we go. I have an obsession with her. I don't know why. I did research on her. I know she was like she went to acting school in somewhere in like Oxford in like New England or something. Yes, somewhere around there in Europe. And like I saw like the trajectory of her career, and she was in law school before she started going into acting. And I was like, "What? Like you were in law school?" And she didn't like. She was like, "Yeah, like I was there for a bit, but I didn't like it, so I went to acting." I'm like, "Oh, like lucky you. I wish I could go to I do that." But I have noticed that a lot of the Asian Americans, they actually have like very similar career paths where they're like, oh, they went into something else, and then they're like, oh, let me do this artist thing, and they, like they come in a little bit later into the game, which I that's why I was like, oh, I love that. I love that. Like it's not too late for me, and it's never too late. Um, so those are the first two that come to mind. I'm sure I have like many others depending on what I'm watching, but uh, I've been following them for quite a bit now.
Right, I think that's all the questions I have. So I'll pass it on to the next person, which I believe is Phoebe.
Awesome, thank you.
One of my questions was, What is the hardest film you have ever done?
The hardest film?
Yes.
I would say right now, I haven't had any previous films that I would consider difficult because they've all kind of come from myself. The one that I am currently working on right now, I personally think is very difficult. It is every single time I have a new film or have something going on, I'm always like, oh, this is so hard. Like every single one, I think it's harder than whatever the last one is for some odd reason. And the reason why is the film that I'll be working on. I'm actually going to be leaving like next week to film in Alaska for it, and I'm like really excited, but it's gonna be crazy. Um, and I have a lead role in it as a woman who has a baby, or she gets pregnant, but she ends up having a miscarriage. And the thing is, I don't know what it's like being pregnant. I do not even want kids. Like, I'm not even ready to have kids yet. I still feel like I'm perpetually 12. And eh, like having that, trying to replicate that feeling of being excited for a baby and losing that child, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I'm still preparing for it right now because I don't think I'm 100% there yet. And what I've been doing is I've been interviewing lots of people, pregnant people, people who've had miscarriages. I made friends with a girl who had a miscarriage like about a month ago, sent her a Christmas card, and I was like, hey girl, like, how you doing? What's up? Like, thanks so much for all of this. And she's doing better now. But all you can really do is have empathy for these people and understand like what they're going through in their shoes and making it like real in your life. And that's what I've been trying to do, and it's very hard when you haven't experienced something yet. So I would say like right now this is pretty difficult for me.
I have two other questions, but that will go to later. So next up is Damien.
Hello. One of my questions I had for you, it's not as serious as the others, but my question is, I saw that you liked anime, and I just wanted to know what's your favorite anime that you've watched.
Oh man, I I haven't watched anime in a while, and there's only one I'm watching right now. I will say it is Attack on Titan right now. That last episode was just perfect episode. um, but I mean, if I was to go old school anime, I mean, there's this one anime that I watched a while ago called Psychopass that
I love Psychopaths.
I really want to adapt that into a film or like a series one day because it is a very good transition into American culture. So,
The concept of the entire anime was absolutely amazing. Like, I really loved the storyline. I'm still working on getting through most of it because, Lord have mercy, there is a lot going on in it. Like, not only is there 2 seasons, but then after those 2 seasons, you have to watch 3 movies, and then after those 3 movies, you can finally move on to the third season. And I don't know if I have dedication to watch 3 movies. I love the show, but 3 movies.
it's a lot. I've only watched the first movie. I don't think I watched the two others. So,
I only got through half of the first movie.
Yeah, it's a great series. I also saw that you like to cosplay, and I wanted to know who's your favorite to cosplay, or yeah, who's your favorite?
I would probably say it's either Ari from League of Legends or Blackrock Shooter, just because those outfits are so complicated, and I don't know why. I love all the complicated ones where you can't even walk in them.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question for what you've just said about Ari from League of Legends. Since you've mentioned that, do you play League of Legends?
I used to. It took so long, but I used to.
Don't get wrapped up in League again. Don't do it to yourself like I've done it to myself.
It is so time consuming. So I understand you. It was my boyfriend who got me into it, and I've seen him rage for like the longest time, and I'm like, dude, I can't spend 2 hours on a game. I am sorry, I can't do this.
2 hours? 2 hours is nothing on League of Legends. I I probably spend about 4 hours of my day on League of Legends.
Wow.
Purely because like once I finish all my schoolwork, I'm like finally break after like, I do my chores, I'm like, okay, now I can have my me time, and my me time is with League and with my friends because that is my main outlet of socializing.
No, that's good though. It's good. I found it a lot easier to play games back in like high school and college because it's like, well, college is or school is my responsibility, so I have to do something else. But like now I'm like, well, everything is like everything in my life I have to be responsible for. It's like, well, shit, like I can't, excuse my language, I can't go into video games right now. But I will though if I hang out with my boyfriend because he's into it much more than I am.
I mean, whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy.
Yay, awesome, awesome. Demon, did you have another question regarding about cosplay anime?
No, I'm all done with my questions.
All right, awesome, awesome. So last but never least is Phoebe, and she has some really fun questions. So Phoebe, pass on to you.
Okay, so my first one is, do you have any pets when you were growing up?
Oh man. So I have I have two pets now, but my parents didn't allow me to have pets back then. But I somehow convinced them to get a hamster for me. I named this hamster Miku, but I was really bad at taking care of this pet. And like a year later, Miku died, and I feel so terrible because I felt like I killed that hamster, but I really love that hamster. I just think I didn't know how to take care of it. And that was pretty much it. I'm pretty sure like I accidentally fed it chocolate. Just terrible. But I'm over it. I've come to terms with it. I love that hamster.
Um, my second one was, do you have any siblings?
I don't. I am an only child. So now I consider my friends my siblings, which is kind of weird because they probably have siblings and are like, you don't know what you're talking about.
All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. Everyone, give yourself a round of applause. You did such a great job conducting interviews and asking questions. Mae, you're fantastic. Thank you for opening up to us. I'm curious, after having to explore such different realms of yourself with Kylie, Damien, and Phoebe, what are some words you can pass on to them for their success and their journey in life?
I think that there is no one way trajectory with things. Um, just because, like, I know that a lot of people kind of put on you, like, oh, you have to go this one direction or this one direction. But my entire life, I've always kind of just pursued things like, if I wanted to do this, I'll go for it. And if I didn't want to do it anymore, I'll go for another thing or, whatever. I think it is okay to be able to look at your life in like various forms because you can be, who you are in front of your parents is different from who you are with your friends, and who you are with your friends is different from who you are with your business people. There are so many aspects of you that I think people like you guys should explore. And, I think that's really what's going to make you happy. Um, I found that the happiest people have always been the ones who are just like, yeah, I enjoy what I like to do. Like, and then the ones who get stuck in that one thing, they're like, oh, I have to pay my bills. I have to do this and I have to do that. Like, it's just not inspiring in life, at least like personally. So, just be you, go for it. Um, And yeah.
I mean, I love what you said about responsibilities. I remember like myself leaving high school and pursuing the acting career, responsibility felt like a burdensome. How how did you how did you make peace with having responsibilities as well as pursuing your direction?
I think it's when I started like really caring about other people. I think when I was growing up, it's always been about like me. What do I do? What trajectory should I go? If I go into acting, like it's gonna be me or whatever. But then on my journey, I've discovered people that I'm like, dude, you are so talented, and I actually care for your success. And whether it's business or like acting or anything else, it's like I can like there is no way I can get rid of this responsibility because I care too much about the success of these other people for me to go down. So it's like at this point it's like it's not about me. It's like I'm letting other people down if I get rid of that responsibility. Like people I actually care about. Like, with my parents, it's like they have an idea for responsibility for me and I'm like, well, like I know I'll bring you down, but like at the same time I care about you, but I know you'll be okay. You'll be okay if I don't go through this. But others, I'm like, I have to do it because I care about you and I know that like I am giving you some sort of value. And it's at this point it's not really about you anymore.
That was beautiful. Is such a what you said was so strong because as we get older and begin becoming our own person, we will have to shed we will have to shed our expectations for ourselves and what we think other people want for us. Although it's like really great, we cannot uphold everything they want for us. It's just not feasible. There's only one of us that we have to honor. So really grateful for you sharing that. Oh my God, someone's getting attention. Do we have any last questions, Kylie, Damien, Phoebe? Feel free to unmute yourself. All good? It was really beautiful. It was very insightful and such a power time of talking to you, Mae. So with that being said, if everyone can just unmute themselves to say thank you to Mae, we really thank you for your time, Mae, seriously.
Yeah, of course.
It was nice to have you here. Thank you for allowing us to interview. It was really fun.
Awesome. Phoebe, Damien, want to say any last words?
Thank you for answering our questions, and it was really
Yeah,
helpful.
thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was great meeting you all. Thank you so much.
Mae, you're fantastic. Thank you for being such a picture of water and just nurturing these folks' growth and to becoming such valuable, fantastic human beings into the world. Thank you so much. You're fantastic, and I'll let you be. Enjoy the rest of your day, Mae. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Of course, and you too. I this is really nice seeing this other side of yourself because I've only seen you in this. So now I'm like, ooh, there's Jenna in her mode. Okay, I see you. So thanks for the opportunity.